Every morning, I sit down with my list, a quiet ritual I hold close, filled with hope more than certainty. My pen hovers above the paper, tracing the outlines of prayers untold, desires whispered into the stillness before dawn fully breaks. I ask for change. I ask for breakthrough. I ask for relief. Yet, as the day folds into night, the weight remains. The bills still pile up like stubborn shadows on the edge of my kitchen counter. The numbers in my bank account refuse to budge, frozen in the same tired place, mocking the faith I try so desperately to hold on to. I'm not alone in this. I see you, too, who wrestles with the quiet despair of watching dreams shrink beneath the pressure of unpaid invoices and mounting debts. We share that uneasy hope, the yearning to break free from a cycle that feels as though it's been written into our fate long before we even realized we were players in the story. There's a pain that runs deeper than the material struggles, though. A silent terror that whispers, is God really listening? Does he even care about this? Because if he does, why hasn't my life shifted? Why does the promise of prosperity seem like a fragile myth reserved for someone else's story? I'm compelled to tell you, this isn't just about numbers on a page or the balance of a bank statement. The battle we face is more intricate, more profound. It isn't just about what we try to earn, save, or spend. It's about what dwells beneath the surface, the quiet voice inside that either holds us back or pushes us forward, the invisible landscape of belief and expectation where our greatest battles are fought. Each morning when I open my eyes, before the weight of the world settles in again, I confront that invisible war within, the clash between hope and doubt, faith and fear, scarcity and abundance. I remember a day, some time ago, when I caught myself thinking aloud, maybe God isn't concerned with my finances. Maybe this isn't his plan. That thought wrenched something open inside, a small door to despair that I hadn't intentionally unlocked before. It was raw and unsettling because I knew that if I truly believed that, even my prayers would lose their power. Yet, beneath that doubt was a hunger, a deep, aching need to believe that transformation is possible, that the divine wants us flourishing, not simply surviving. What if the real issue isn't that God can't or won't intervene, but that I haven't learned how to truly align my heart and mind with the promises I desire? What if my way of praying, my approach to asking, was missing the secret key to unlocking something greater? These questions began stirring in me, quietly but persistently, demanding attention. I want you to walk with me through this journey, to recognize that the issue is not just the external, but the internal as well, the beliefs, the fears, the invisible chains holding us back. Together, we'll explore a path not only of words spoken in prayer but a transformation of the mind, the deepest seed of change. This isn't about quick fixes or empty promises. It's about uncovering a truth that can ripple through every corner of your life, starting at the core of your faith and vision. It's about meeting those moments when fear tempts us to settle for less, and instead choosing to believe in a prosperity meant for us, a prosperity that serves not just ourselves but the people around us. It's about what happens when we refuse to be prisoners of circumstance and instead become heroes of our own stories. I'm inviting you, not to simply listen, but to engage, to feel, to reflect, and when you're ready, to step into a new kind of prayer that aligns your heart, mind, and spirit with a divine power waiting to break through. This is our story, my story, your story, written in the language of hope and action. It's not the end, but the beginning of a transformation that starts inside and reaches out to every aspect of our lives. So, before the day runs away from us again, before the shadow of doubt creeps back in, let's take this moment together, to hold a space for possibility and courage, and to set the stage for a journey unlike any other. Because what if today is the day this story turns around? What if this moment holds the hidden spark to awaken the prosperity that has been waiting quietly within? In the quiet moments when the world retreats and I am left alone with my thoughts, I sometimes catch myself trapped in a maze of habitual doubts, a mental tug-of-war that subtly reroutes my energy away from the blessings that could be unfolding. I vividly recall a late evening not long ago, when the glow of a single lamp cast long shadows across my desk, mirroring the uncertainty that flooded my mind. On a particularly challenging morning, I sat with a journal open before me, seeking clarity amid financial turbulence. I found myself writing a dialogue with my own doubt, why do I cling to scarcity when I whisper prayers of abundance? This confrontation illuminated a critical truth. My heart was divided, a battlefield where conviction and skepticism fought fiercely. Yet, surrendering to this internal conflict birthed a subtle revelation. The key to unlocking change lies in harmonizing mind and spirit, cultivating a conversation that doesn't merely ask for relief but embraces a sense of belonging within the flow of grace. Moving beyond passive hope, I took an unusual step one afternoon. I recorded myself speaking aloud, vocalizing affirmations woven with conviction and gratitude. At first, it felt awkward, almost contrived. Yet, as the words spilled into the quiet room, something shifted. There was a tangible power stirred by the act of speaking belief into existence, breaking the chains of silence and reinforcing a transformative rhythm. This practice did not erase obstacles, but it did summon a courageous energy, reinforcing that inner dialogue is not trivial chatter but a constructive force capable of forging new pathways. Another experience unfolded unexpectedly while walking by a small park near my home. I watched a sapling growing through cracks in the concrete, vulnerable yet undeniable in its insistence on life. In its persistence, I found a metaphor for the mindset required to cultivate financial well-being. Just as the tree defies its harsh environment without resistance, I understood that embracing growth demands an inner resilience, a refusal to be shaped solely by circumstantial hardships. Instead, it calls for a mindset that bends with challenges yet stands firm in the intent to thrive. I remember a conversation with a friend who had faced years of financial uncertainty yet radiated a calm assurance I envied. When I asked her what had shifted, she shared a practice that surprised me. Each day, she set an intention not on what she lacked but on the ways she could be an instrument of blessing to others, trusting that abundance would ripple back. This reframing of focus away from entitlement toward service unveiled a fresh perspective. It suggested that aligning prayer with purposeful action, rooted in generosity rather than desperation, awakens a dynamic energy that draws opportunities and resources organically. Now, consider how this applies when you face a mountain of unpaid bills or a paycheck that vanishes too quickly. It's easy to feel like you're sinking, yet beneath the surface lies a power waiting to be cultivated. Instead of wrestling against scarcity, what if you redirected your inner dialogue to speak courage and expectation? Imagine framing your prayers as declarations of partnership with a higher purpose, rather than mere requests whispered into the void. Each declaration can shift neural pathways, dismantling entrenched fear patterns and planting seeds of possibility in fertile soil. Furthermore, engaging your imagination to visualize the overflow you desire transforms abstract dreams into vivid mental tapestries. Picture receiving that overdue payment, imagine the relief washing over you in waves, letting those sensations linger in your body. This sensory rehearsal primes your subconscious to unlock doors that once seemed locked tight. It's more than visualization, it's a rehearsal for a future already written in potential, waiting to be fulfilled. What struck me most profoundly was realizing that my own mind could be either sanctuary or prison. At times, I designed mental cages with subtle judgments, believing financial struggle signified personal failure or divine disfavor. Confronting these harsh self-assessments became a turning point. I discovered that dismantling these internal verdicts not only frees emotional energy but rewires my openness to unconventional avenues of support and breakthrough. It's as if releasing old stories invites new chapters penned by grace rather than guilt. There was a moment when I caught myself resisting gratitude because of scarcity's stranglehold. Instead of focusing on what was missing, I began listing daily small victories, an unexpected favor, a kind word, a moment of peace. This shift cultivated a rhythm of acknowledgement, replacing scarcity's hard grip with soft waves of appreciation. Surprisingly, this daily habit generated a momentum of uplift, reminding me that abundance is often the accumulation of tiny, overlooked mercies rather than grand miracles alone. In essence, the inner transformation I underwent revealed that financial breakthroughs intertwine with my ability to reprogram my mind's architecture, to invite new neural pathways marked by trust, creativity, and openness rather than fear, rigidity, and despair. This alignment becomes a sacred dance, where faith fuels action and action nurtures faith, creating a synergy powerful enough to crack even the oldest patterns. When I embraced that my mind was the foundation of change, I felt a subtle but unmistakable shift. the battlefield became a field of fertile possibility where God's grace can move freely. So now, when uncertainty looms or the pressures mount, I remind myself that the invisible war is not futile. The thoughts, declarations, and feelings we nurture daily craft a reality that hears our prayers louder than we might imagine. By honoring this internal landscape with patience and intention, we open channels for blessings to pour in unexpectedly and abundantly. This is the terrain where faith becomes strategy, where prayer meets purpose and transformation takes root. One afternoon, as I walked through a bustling market filled with vibrant colors and lively chatter, I found myself reflecting on how often I had overlooked opportunities simply because I was blinded by uncertainty. A merchant called out to me, offering a small carving with an earnest smile. At that moment, I realized how much I had limited my vision, convinced that breakthroughs had to arrive in monumental gestures. This encounter taught me that prosperity often tiptoes in through subtle doors, moments that slip past when we're too focused on the overwhelming noise of scarcity. That day stayed with me, a reminder that spotting these opportunities demands more than hope, it requires an alertness and a readiness to engage. Imagine if, instead of waiting for a sudden windfall, I habitually scanned every interaction and every decision for threads of potential. What if success was less about luck and more about a cultivated foresight, a mental discipline woven with patience and perseverance? This awareness began reshaping my approach, leading me to embrace deliberate steps, however small, as gateways to greater growth. A few weeks later, I found myself in a conversation with an entrepreneur whose story challenged many assumptions I held. She recounted times when financial struggles nearly silenced her dreams, yet what pulled her through was recognizing patterns, both in her finances and in her mindset, that she could transform. "It's about tuning into signals you usually dismiss," she told me, her voice steady. "Sometimes, an unpaid invoice prompts creative solutions you hadn't dared to imagine." Her words lingered, reminding me how receptive I needed to be to those subtle clues, hints that our environments constantly offer if we listen attentively. This encounter pushed me to experiment. One evening, I began noting down daily small wins and unexpected chances that might otherwise be swallowed in my routine. To my surprise, these moments formed a mosaic of possibility, threads that, when woven together, created a tapestry of unfolding abundance. These small shifts cultivated a sense of trust, not in vague promises, but in tangible, incremental movement. I started to see that prospering isn't an all-or-nothing leap, it is the harvest of mindful persistence. Another powerful lesson arrived during a visit to a community garden. While weeding one patch, I noticed how the plants didn't grow uniformly or on command, they flourished according to rhythms unique to their nature and surroundings. This sparked a realization in me that financial wellness parallels this organic process. Growth unfolds unevenly, often with setbacks, requiring a gentle patience and consistent care. Just as I couldn't rush the sprouting of seeds, I couldn't force immediate fortune, I needed to nourish my mindset and decisions daily, trusting in the natural course of transformation. Later still, I recalled a time when I was offered advice that felt counterintuitive, to embrace contentment even amid struggle. It struck me as a paradox: how could contentment lead to abundance? Over time, I understood that this acceptance isn't resignation but a grounded acknowledgement of my present worth and resources. It tempered desperation and freed my mind to be more strategic and creative. Instead of wrestling frantically with lack, I chose to operate from a place of balance, creating space for inspiration and decisive action. This shift also illuminated how vital generosity is on this journey. Sharing what little I had, even if it seemed insignificant, transformed my perspective. I observed that when I contributed, offering time, skills, or kindness, the universe often responded in unexpected ways. This reciprocity taught me that prosperity's essence extends beyond accumulation, it's a flowing river that gains strength when allowed to nourish others. As I opened my hands, I noticed blessings finding their way back, sometimes disguised as new connections or insights that enriched my financial path. Conversations with friends facing financial crossroads revealed similar insights. One shared how she adopted a ritual of morning reflection, not only setting financial goals but also expressing gratitude for resources already present. She emphasized how this simple act reshaped her energy, turning her focus from scarcities to surpluses. The shift wasn't magical in an instantaneous way but gradually rewired her responses, allowing patience and hope to flourish side by side. Inspired, I began cultivating my own rituals, discovering that these moments of intentionality forged a resilient foundation beneath shifting circumstances. In time, I grasped that cultivating this mindset felt akin to training muscles seldom used. Discipline and repetition were essential. I noticed days when doubts crept in, threatening to dismantle the progress made. Yet, through returning repeatedly to these new mental habits, recognizing potential around me, practicing contentment, expressing gratitude, extending generosity, I built an inner resilience capable of withstanding uncertainty's storms. This fortitude didn't eliminate hardship, but it reframed my relationship with it, inviting a proactive stance grounded in faith and realism. Throughout this transformation, I began to understand the profound interconnectedness between perception and reality. The lens through which I viewed my financial situation wielded transformative power, shaping choices, emotions, and outcomes. When I reoriented my gaze toward possibility and proactive engagement, doors previously sealed began to creak open. This experience revealed how essential it is to foster vigilant awareness, an ongoing, conscious engagement with the environment and inner world alike, that can tune us into the subtle currents steering us forward. Now, consider how this applies when you face a mountain of unpaid bills or a paycheck that vanishes too quickly. What if shifting your outlook to notice and embrace small openings around you became your daily practice? Could that alertness serve as a compass, guiding you to creative solutions or fresh sources of income that once went unnoticed? This practice transforms waiting into watching, anxious hoping into informed expectancy. It equips you not only to endure hardship but to navigate toward thriving with purpose and grace. Ultimately, embracing an attentive mindset toward opportunity cultivates a readiness to act decisively when moments arrive. It's a stance that honors patience without falling into passivity, fostering a dynamic balance between hope and action. As I learned, prosperity often prefers steady footsteps leading to small victories rather than leaps into the unknown. This truth reshaped how I see the journey, a mosaic assembled piece by piece, inviting us all to become skilled artisans of our own financial futures. I remember the evening vividly. After a long day clouded with worry, I found myself drawn to an old book gathering dust on my shelf. Its pages whispered promises I hadn't dared to consider fully, about the transformative power of conviction flavored with intent. As I turned each leaf, a notion took root: what if my prayers could become more than mere words? What if they carried a deliberate rhythm, a cadence that synchronized my whole being with a higher will? This idea energized me, stirring a thrill that spread through my chest like a sudden sunrise after a night of stormy skies. From that moment, I began experimenting with the art of praying in a way that aligned every fiber of me toward abundance, not as something distant or elusive, but as an existing force already at hand. Each prayer turned into a purposeful dialogue, where I named fears, hopes, and gratitude with equal reverence, acknowledging the complexity of my journey instead of glossing over it. There was power in the authenticity of admitting my doubts and inviting transformation right into those raw spaces. Slowly, this practice forged a sacred trust, a bridge spanning the gap between desire and reality. I also discovered that my vocal expression involved more than mere repetition. It was an act of creation. Speaking aloud declarations of possibility felt like planting seeds whose roots could penetrate hard ground. One evening, sitting by a dimly lit window, I vocalized a prayer focused on unlocking financial flow. The words rolled off my tongue with intention and warmth, weaving through the still air as if threading an invisible fabric binding me closer to divine momentum. An unexpected calm embraced me afterward, as if the universe had greeted me with a nod of acknowledgement. On another occasion, I happened upon a street artist painting vibrant murals on a worn city wall. Watching her transform a gray space into a cascade of colors, I sensed a resemblance to my own efforts at internal renewal. Just like her brushstrokes, prayers spoken with deliberate energy could refresh barren areas in my life, layering hope and newness over desolation. In that moment, I understood that my spiritual practice was an act of artistry, a creative force crafting abundance from fragments of doubt and scarcity. Additionally, I started to weave brief rituals into my daily routine to deepen this connection. Before dawn, I would light a candle and silently affirm, divine provision moves through every chamber of my life. This simple gesture became a beacon, a gentle reminder illuminating my purpose during the day's inevitable challenges. The candle's flame danced, flickering with each breath of air, echoing the fragile but persistent nature of faith in unfolding prosperity. Such rituals anchored me, making abstract hopes tangible through ceremony. My growing awareness of how my words shaped my experience led me to pause before reacting to financial setbacks. Instead of rushing to fix or fret, I began reflecting, what does this moment invite me to learn? How might I respond with courage and clarity? These questions became tools, not mere platitudes but real instruments honing my resilience. The space created by mindful inquiry helped dissolve impulsive fear and open doors to creative problem-solving. I noticed how this shift offered new pathways previously invisible, as if a dense fog had gradually lifted from my perspective. During a family gathering, I shared this evolving understanding with my cousin Jake, who had battled his own money struggles for years. His skepticism was palpable, yet curiosity kept him engaged. He confessed how often frustration led him to prayers shot like arrows, desperate and sharp. I encouraged him to soften his approach, inviting him to experiment with timing and tone, transform prayers into affirmations spoken with calm strength. Weeks later, he described a newfound peace in his heart, and unexpectedly, opportunities began to appear, a freelance gig, a timely referral, small financial wins he had overlooked before. These experiences reinforced a truth I hadn't fully grasped. Prayer is a dynamic exchange, a living conversation requiring patience, clarity, and respect for timing. Just as a tree doesn't grow overnight, nor does transformation unfold with mechanical precision. Instead, rhythms emerge, ebbs and flows where faithful persistence harmonizes with divine orchestration. I learned to cherish the intervals between prayer and manifestation, understanding that these gaps were not voids but spaces where unseen work occurs. Conversations with mentors also enriched my perspective. One counselor described prayer as a lifting of the soul's compass, a way to recalibrate intentions and trust beyond immediate circumstances. Her metaphor resonated deeply. I pictured myself as a sailor navigating vast oceans, guided by a magnetic needle steadying against tempestuous waves. This imagery helped me reconcile moments when outcomes lagged behind my requests, teaching me to keep course rather than abandon hope at the first storm. Integrating all these lessons, I began to recognize that my prayers formed the backbone of a larger transformation. They sculpted not only my internal landscape but influenced how I responded to external realities. Confidence swelled from acknowledging that spoken faith could stir momentum, like a carefully kindled fire that grows when nurtured with both breath and care. The journey from helpless wishing to active participating felt empowering, infusing each day with renewed purpose. Now, imagine applying this focused, intentional way of praying to your own life's financial picture. What if your next prayer carried the energy of focused creativity, blending acknowledgement, request, and trust into a seamless whole? What melodies would rise from such purposeful articulation? I invite you to experiment with this rhythm, to discover in your own voice the power that lies waiting, ready to awaken prosperity long held at bay. Reflecting on this journey so far, I feel as though I'm standing at the edge of a vast and slowly unfolding landscape, one where the air is thick with possibility but carries the subtle scent of challenge. It's a space where what once seemed disparate threads have begun intertwining, forming a tapestry of transformation woven from silent battles, whispered prayers, and gentle shifts in perception. I can sense that this is a threshold moment, a pause before a deeper revelation, where the quiet stirring beneath the surface hints at a power both ancient and immediate, waiting to be embraced. There's an unmistakable tension in this place, a tension that feels alive and electric, as if the very air around me vibrates with an unseen current. It reminds me of the moment just before dawn, when night cloaks the earth but the first tendrils of sunlight have started to pierce the horizon, soft, tentative, yet undeniably persistent. In that fragile light, the world holds its breath, poised between darkness and radiance, between uncertainty and revelation. That's where I stand now, and I imagine you standing alongside me, both of us tuned into a frequency of awakening that beckons beyond what we have already glimpsed. Walking this path has unveiled something profound about the nature of the inner landscape we traverse when seeking change. it's alive, shifting, and responsive to the rhythms of our courage and attention. As I walk, I notice the ground beneath me is neither solid rock nor shifting sand, but something akin to fertile earth, rich, capable of growth but in need of tending and intention. It is here that the whispers of our truest potential take root, fed by the choices we make in moments both grand and mundane. The challenge, and the gift, lies in learning to cultivate this soil with unwavering care and vision. I catch myself considering the quiet power of transformation that unfolds when our beliefs begin to sway, when the stories we tell ourselves relax their grip just enough to allow something new to enter. It's comparable to a subtle but persistent wind, sweeping through the branches of an ancient tree, encouraging leaves to fall so new buds may emerge. This wind doesn't devastate, it renews. It quietly insists on growth by making space for fresh expression, and we, as the keepers of our own stories, are invited to lean into this current, to embrace the uncertainty that comes with shedding old doubts and stepping toward possibility unfurling just beyond the horizon of our comfort. In these moments, I've recognized how deeply intertwined our internal dialogues are with the world we navigate. There exists a dance between what we envision and how our steps align to that vision. Sometimes, the music of that dance feels discordant, a jarring rhythm fueled by fears and hesitations. But when we attune ourselves to a more harmonious melody, one rooted in faith, intention, and openness, we start to move with greater grace and confidence. The dance floor expands, becoming a stage for bold shifts and subtle turns, for the unexpected moments when the rhythm catches us by surprise and guides us forward. I think about a soft rain that once began to fall just as I was feeling dry and weary. The drops didn't immediately rejuvenate the earth, but over time, each one soaked deep into the roots, sparking quiet revival. This image serves as a reminder to me that transformation often doesn't announce itself with grandeur or immediacy but unfolds through consistent, gentle nourishment provided with purpose and trust. The process can be as much about leaning into discomfort and uncertainty as it is about celebrating milestones. Growth, in its purest form, calls us to embrace the ebb and flow without resistance, seeing each phase as an essential shade in the full spectrum of our evolution. There's an intimate conversation playing out within me now, between hope and realism, between longing and groundedness. It's as if I am learning a new language composed of subtle inflections rather than loud declarations, where meaning is discovered in breathless pauses and nuanced gestures. This dialogue carries with it the weight of vulnerability alongside the spark of audacity. I sense that this balance is crucial, not a contradiction but a creative tension that fuels forward momentum and fosters resilience. Each breath in this dance is an invitation, to risk, to believe, to persist with a heart both fierce and tender. I invite you to lean into this stretch between what has been and what is possible. Feel the quiet gravity pulling you toward open fields humming with unseen energy. You and I, navigators of this evolving terrain, are called to come awake fully to the subtle signs leading us onward. To listen with fresh ears and to welcome the unfolding story that gently nudges us into a place where confidence, faith, and clarity meld into effortless strength. Something is stirring, a sacred alchemy brewing beneath the surface, and its currents beckon us to step boldly toward the radiant horizon that waits. As I stand here now, I feel the weight of all those moments, the mornings steeped in longing, the nights heavy with doubts, the gentle shifts in awareness that charted an unseen course beneath my surface. What remains with me is a recognition that this journey has never been about a quick fix or a sudden miracle arriving fully formed. Instead, it's a narrative woven through subtle awakenings and the steady unfolding of trust, an invitation to embrace the dance between persistence and surrender. There was a time when I believed my prayers were fragile threads, easily broken by the harsh winds of circumstance. But through this path I've walked, I've come to understand that they are more like roots, deep, tendrils that sink quietly into rich soil, grabbing hold long before any sprout appears. The transformation I have experienced is not confined to external results or outcomes, it pulses inside me, reshaping the landscape of how I perceive scarcity, value, and divine purpose. What feels most sacred is how this internal metamorphosis offers a kind of armor, not heavy or limiting, but fluid and dynamic, allowing me to face uncertain days with a new kind of steadiness. In those moments when financial strain felt like an unyielding storm, I discovered that vulnerability, once something I feared, in fact became a doorway to courage. Naming my fears aloud did not diminish my faith, it deepened it, inviting a raw honesty that stirred grace into the spaces I'd long attempted to shield. Each prayer offered in authenticity became a thread in a tapestry of resilience, woven from flickers of clarity and soft sparks of faith that endured far beyond what numbers might reveal. I still remember sitting by a window on a cool morning, watching raindrops trace unpredictable paths down the glass. That image became a silent teacher, reminding me that life's trajectory often meanders unexpectedly, shaped by rhythms outside my control. Yet, embedded in that fluidity is an invitation to flow, not passively, but as an active participant responding gracefully to life's currents. This awareness transformed how I approached not just my finances but every corner of my existence, replacing resistance with a steady willingness to navigate the unknown. It's easy to fall into the trap of seeing our challenges as walls that confine us. But I've learned to imagine them instead as arches, structures formed through struggle that can also become gateways. Crossing through these thresholds requires courage, yes, but also a delicate trust in something greater than my own limited vision. When I attuned myself to this deeper perspective, I sensed a swell of power, not from controlling circumstances but from harmonizing within a broader rhythm of abundance that moves far beyond transactional exchanges. One evening, I shared this understanding with a close friend who had been shadowed by similar fears. In the flicker of candlelight, I told her about the way my approach to prayer transformed from pleas for relief into declarations of belonging, to both divine promise and personal purpose. Her eyes widened, not because I offered answers, but because I illuminated a way of being that invited her own heart to rise. That conversation lingered between us as a sacred thread, a testament to how connection and shared vulnerability can awaken unseen reservoirs of strength in each of us. Now, in this moment, I invite you to consider your own story, not as a fixed script defined by scarcity or limitation but as a living narrative still unfolding. What if the greatest act you can take today is simply to lean into the spaces where uncertainty and faith converge, trusting that even the smallest gesture of belief sets in motion ripples far beyond immediate sight? There is an enduring power in embracing imperfection and honoring each step, not as failure or success, but as vital steps on a path uniquely yours. I see myself standing at the edge of possibility, not with certainty carved in stone, but with a heart wide open to the mystery of what's to come. The path ahead is neither smooth nor predictable, yet that unpredictability hums with promise. It asks for patience born out of knowing that transformation unfolds through persistent, sometimes silent, cultivation of our inner landscape. This journey calls us to practice faith as a living art, a commitment woven through daily acts of courage, gratitude, and sincere prayer. As I breathe in this shared experience, I sense a stirring inside, a profound invitation to rise beyond fear and hesitation, to step into the fullness of a life marked by abundance that begins deep within. We are heroes in unfolding narratives not because obstacles vanish overnight but because we hold steadfast amidst complexity, nurturing a flame of hope that guides us through shadow toward light. So, as we part here, I offer you this: carry with you a gentle boldness, an inner compass tuned not only by what you see but by what you quietly trust. Allow your prayers to be bridges and your faith to be roots, anchoring you through every weathered season. Remember, the power to rewrite your story pulses within, waiting patiently for you to step forward and claim it.